Hello guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Liv. This video is going through a how-to of a forward fold, something that we do many times in a yoga class. It's very easy to get wrong and it's something that can be quite confusing. So let's break it down. First things first, what is the purpose of forward fold? From a physical viewpoint, a forward fold is lengthening the entire back line of the body. So yes, we are lengthening the back of the legs, the hamstrings, but let's not forget that the purpose is also to lengthen the back body, so our spines. We want to be lengthening our lower back as well. It is not just about stretching our hamstrings. So setting up, feet can either be together or hip distance apart. Generally, it's a little bit more comfortable and also easier to balance when the feet are hip distance apart. Bringing feet together would probably make the pose that little bit more challenging. So as you can see already, I've got softly bent knees. The torso and the thigh are closely sandwiched together. Obviously, I've got pretty good flexibility, so I can actually get them to touch. If your flexibility perhaps is not your forte, they might not touch, but we have got this closeness of torso towards thighs, knees being bent to allow our sit bones to push out behind us and the torso to come close to the legs. Therefore, we're stretching our hamstrings. Don't be fooled into thinking your legs have to be straight to stretch your hamstrings. Your hamstrings are stretching, but we're also lengthening the lower back. Two parts of the forward fold, hamstrings and lower back. So we've got these softly bent knees, we've got this torso close to thighs. Our core is holding in, so belly towards thigh. You want to try and think of your forward fold as a little bit of an abdominal exercise. You're compressing your body towards your legs, so you're using the strength of your core. So from this sort of soft bent position, you could choose to take a ragdoll fold, where the arms are floppy, either loose, perhaps they're crossed, where the upper body is not particularly helping. It's just allowing gravity to pull towards the floor to deepen the fold. You've obviously then got to think of pushing those sit bones, the bony bits on the underside of your bum, push the sit bones to the sky whilst maintaining this closeness of torso and thighs to allow the back of the body, hamstrings and the lower back to lengthen. So if we wanted to turn this ragdoll fold into a more traditional forward fold, we would use our upper body for our hands. They could either place to the mat. Now that doesn't have to be flat hands, that could be fingertips. It could also be blocks if you are really struggling with the length of your hamstrings. Of course, we've still got those bent knees, but hands onto blocks will give you that ability to touch down. Wherever the hands touch down, if we've chosen floor or blocks, we can think of pushing the hands down into the floor, but also pushing away. And that movement of pushing away helps us drive those hips to the sky to make that hamstring stretch more intense. And obviously you can make that as intense or as not intense as you wish. Alternatively, the hands can hold the feet. There's lots of variations that you can take in where you hold the foot, whether it be toes, outsides of feet. I quite like to come to hold the ankles. Remember, we've still got this sandwich of torso towards thighs. You can hold onto your ankles, let your head be nice and loose so the neck is an extension of the rest of the spine. And then think of trying to pull your heels up and off the mat. Obviously, you're not going to do that. You can't do that. But you're going to have the intention of pulling the heels up at the same time as the chest lengthening down towards the floor. You're driving those sit bones to the sky as again you continue to intensify the stretch. So let's have a look at a couple of ways that we quite often come into our forward fold. Most commonly we come from standing. So if we come from a standing position, I'm going to take feet hip distance apart. We want to remember that soft bend in the knees and allow that to lead the movement. Soft bend in the knees, sit bones start to push slightly backwards as we hinge at the hips. Keep those soft knees as we draw the torso close to the thighs. We can then choose those options. Maybe we go ragdoll. Maybe we go to holding on to some sort of part of the leg or the foot and intensifying that stretch with a pull, a self-assistance into the pose. Alternatively, we might come to it from a little crouching position, such as what I'm in now. Lovely thing about this is our torso and thigh are already close together, so we can keep them together. Hands onto the floor in front of you. As your heels find the mat, keep that sandwich of thigh and belly, and then allow yourself to again take either option of that fold. And then one final common entry into a forward fold would be from a down dog, as that's commonly found in a vinyasa class where we link postures together. So if we're in our down dog, we're going to be taking a big step forward towards the top of the mat. Doesn't matter how close to the hand we get. We've got this bent knee already. We've got the torso close to the thigh, so we're going to maintain that as the second foot steps in. We've got those softly bent knees and we allow ourselves to either hang or to pull. So that's our forward fold, our Uttanasana. But what about the halfway lift? technically not a halfway lift, it's a half forward fold. And there's a few significant differences, but a similar purpose. The purpose still being to lengthen out the spine and to stretch the back of the legs, but the spine wants to be straight. So it's an elongation of the spine rather than a stretch of the spine, which a forward fold is. So everyone's half forward fold or halfway lift is going to look very different because it's very dependent on the length of your hamstrings, but the most important part is that your spine is straight. So, for instance, let's say we were coming from our forward fold, which is the most common place we come to because we've exhaled forward fold, and then we get the instruction of inhale to halfway lift. Now, if your hamstrings are pretty long, our hands can sometimes stay on the mat or perhaps come to our ankles, and we take that inhale to the halfway lift. Now notice how my spine has become straight, my chest has lengthened towards the top of the mat, I'm pushing my sit bones back and my legs have been able to become straight. Not locked out, but they are straight. So this is someone perhaps with very long hamstrings, which is not obviously everybody. What you want to find in that halfway lift is that flat back. So it might mean hands towards just below your knees, depending on where you are. It might mean even higher towards your thighs. If you're pressing your thighs out behind you, you're lengthening your chest forwards and you can feel that length in your hamstrings, that stretch in your hamstrings, then this is your halfway lift, your half forward fold. Try not to be confused by other people who perhaps are more flexible, who are able to keep their hands onto the floor, whose half lift and forward fold perhaps don't look too dissimilar. We want to make sure when we're in that half lift, we're using our core, because if we think about it, our core is having to support the weight of this upper body. You know, there's nothing holding my chest up here. The hold of my core is supporting me there. Shoulders are pulling away from ears. Think of your shoulder blades drawing down your back, so there's a bit of a broadness across your chest, and that applies no matter how deep into the pose you have moved. So because our legs are straight, we can turn this stretch much more active. Our hamstrings are holding the body in this halfway lift, so it's a very active stretch, a half fold, because the hamstrings are having to be strong to hold the body here at the same time as lengthening. So whilst we've got that active stretch, we want to try and think of engaging our quads. So to be able to squeeze our quads in a forward fold, we need to lift the kneecaps up towards the hips. So when they're soft, the kneecap drops. When you engage those kneecaps up, it engages those quads to help lengthen through those hamstrings. So hopefully that gives you a better understanding of what you should be doing in your forward fold and how it differs from your halfway lift. You can find more of these short and sweet tutorials in this playlist just here on this side. And perhaps if you're working on that hamstring length, this class on this side would be good to help them get a little bit longer. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know in the comments if you found it helpful, and I'd really appreciate if you could click like and subscribe to help support the channel.